This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bakovic.
Happy to be with you here again on a Tuesday night. It is indeed nuclear heat, and we do review WWE's Week in Wrestling. We do it every week. We love to do it for you here on 93.7 The Ticket. So tune in, tell your friends, tell your wrestling friends. I know wrestling fans are a close-knit community. It might not, everybody that hears this here on the radio waves might not love wrestling. But if you do have a couple wrestling fans, try to tell them about it, because we're trying to have some fun here on Nuclear Heat. Work at a station at 93.7 The Ticket where we've got Adam Carricker and DP and just some real big wrestling fans. And so it's a lot of fun. Hosta Breezy on Sundays, obviously. Wrestling and wrestling, as we will call it, will continue with Nuclear Heat here. I'm Jake Bachman. I'm with my tag team partner, Augie Pena, who is the Nuclear Heat contributor. And Augie, we've been doing this for over a year. We said last segment as well, last episode. So thanks for sticking with me. WWE is every week. Right now, as it currently stands, like we're doing it, 5 hours a week with Raw and SmackDown, and there's no off season, there's no bye week. You don't get, even as college football or NFL fans, you have off season, and maybe you jump from sport to sport. WWE is every week, and so it is interesting, but it is also a changing of the guard, because we heard last night on WWE Raw, as they move to Netflix, and they're going to do a little bit of this on USA Network, but they moved to Netflix with WWE Raw in January. I believe in September is when they'll start with the USA Network. Well, it is September, so I have to check on the exact date, but they're going to cut Raw from 3 hours to 2 hours, which is something that might sound like it makes the opposite sense here, but a lot of wrestling fans are embracing this, want to see this happen. For a few reasons. The biggest one being is that, like I said, we spend 5 hours already on wrestling a week. 4 hours opens up a whole nother hour for us to get stuff done around the house. But more importantly, I think for the storytelling, the new era, just the interest in what Netflix will do with their time, because it's not a hard time out. Like you have to be in network television. They could, if they're going to 2 hours, they could do 2 hours and 10 minutes. They could do 1 hour and 55 minutes. They can get everything in that they creatively want to get in, instead of being, cornered into, okay, now we got to fill some time here. Here's some mid-card matches. So I think the wrestling will move quicker with 2 hours, and that's obvious, right? But yeah. I just think it will feel even that it goes quicker than 2 hours, somewhat like SmackDown does.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. They're going to cut off some of our favorites, Killian Cross, Candice LeRae, things like that, So
what are we going to do without our popcorn matches?
I don't know, man. I don't know what we're going to spend an accidental 10 minutes talking about, when we shouldn't. But no, it'll be good, I think just for the quality of it, because, when it first started, I think with SmackDown, it felt like the wrestling was more, focused on, and with Raw, they went on to too many storylines, and now we can kind of, so for Monday, maybe focus more on the Judgment Day, kind of. That's their, the big segments there, things like that, instead of, the side one. So I'm for it. And, here, the Central Time, I'm okay with it being 7 to 9 opposed to 7 to 10, with our bedtimes and things like that. We go with, as long as, other things competing like Monday Night Football. So I'm willing to give it a chance. It will be weird, because I feel like we were 8, 9, maybe when Raw made that announcement to 3 hours. And I remember being excited. I was like, oh, more wrestling. And then I could never stay up to watch it, because, I had to be in bed by a certain time. So, but, it'll be a good change, I think. And like you said, I'm interested to see how Netflix does it. No commercials. You'd think they'd put, probably just a lot of sponsorships. But that'll be cool, as long as they keep it live, and, they can show us go back to maybe, not some of the raunchier stuff they're doing now, but, maybe not the PG-13, kind of go into a little bit more. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. When it gets to Netflix, it's who knows what they're gonna do. They definitely have to be careful to not get too raunchy. If they do, and you kind of endanger what's worked, right? Yeah. So WWE's kind of been fit in this cable TV box, and then you have the premium live events. So they've dealt with it before. They have a lot of experience in it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, the whole Netflix era is going to be fascinating because of everything that we're mentioning. Just no commercials, and I think that they might still have commercials. There's no plan that they said we're not, it's all going to be commercial free. But last night on Raw was commercial free. Like they understand the draw to being commercial free. And so, and they've opened up to more endorsements with Logan Paul specifically, bringing Prime in, and then all of a sudden, okay, every pay-per-view match is sponsored by Papa John's or somebody. And I don't have a problem. It kind of gives you that big match feel. Sometimes the sponsor drags down the big match feel a little bit. Sorry to LA Knight, but his match, he just got brought in with the beef jerky for a while, and I just kind of couldn't help but think of him and beef jerky for a while. So sometimes it always doesn't do the best for you. But it will certainly be a new era in wrestling. And we'll see what they could do with it. I would say this week, I think it was a good week of wrestling, but I was a little underwhelmed with the switch to USA Network. Because I feel like the main events were lacking a little bit. I know Jey Uso is really over, and he finished out Raw, getting an Intercontinental title opportunity, or earning one. And so, maybe that's enough for you. It feels like it's the problem of being so good at what you do for a while. We had kind of that post WrestleMania drop off. I feel like we're kind of having this SummerSlam vibe. Like we're not quite to WrestleMania season. We're still kind of in SummerSlam. And so even like some of the feuds that they're finally getting to, we've been asking for Finn Balor and Damian Priest for a long time. And it felt a little underwhelming when it actually got here. It just felt like maybe they had thrown in an extra match there with Dominic Mysterio at the last pay-per-view that cooled it off.
Yeah. And then I agree with you. My stance on Jey. I know the crowd. He's great in the ring. The crowd's with him. I just don't see it. He's not main event Jey Uso because every time he gets into main event, he loses, right?
Or he won this time.
Well, a title picture is what I meant.
Yeah,
he loses that. And then with Damian Priest, on that, you're right. They finally give us the Finn finally caves and all that stuff. And then Damian's essentially hurt, right? Because they took that beat down. So it's just, it's like this last premium live event, the Bash in Berlin didn't need to happen, kind of like we said, they kind of just threw in a bunch of feuds and,
most of them are still going on.
Yep. And it's like they didn't need to happen. So, I'm a little excited for what this SmackDown is going to be just off of, I think the Solo and like Cody Rhodes, the cage match can be fun. Things like that, some of the guests they're saying like, hey, The Rock might come back, things like that. They pull out all the stops when they move into a new network and things like that. The Rock might take up 30 minutes of the entrance, things that on there. But we'll see. It's rough. I mean, they're trying. I can tell they're trying, but it's like not all the playmakers are here right now. So, Roman's out. We're all waiting John Cena to come back.
Rollins is out.
Yeah, Rollins is out. Becky's gone. Charlotte Flair. I forgot. I know I bring her up all the time, but genuinely, like, she's been out for over a year. With the knee injury, and it's like you
talk about somebody that has aura that really can bring up the women's division.
And SmackDown needs that. Raw, they got Rhea Ripley. They got Liv Morgan. So they got like more of the the Damage Control. They got more of the tag teams on there, but SmackDown really needs somebody to come in and save that division. I've heard some rumors, some leaks that's where she's going to go. That'll be huge there, but they need to do that with there. And then like you said, the main event for Raw, it was fine. It was good, but a lot of people were in it. We knew Jey was going to be given that opportunity just from the backstage segments. He's helping the Judgment Day, things like that, but it is a little messy. It was one of those typical, here's a big main event, a lot of people in here, and the most, we're not going to do any swerves. This guy's going to win, it, and you're going to love it. So that's kind of what they went with.
Do you like? Here's a problem that I'll have that you just because you brought it up, and I like Jey Uso. We'll just start with this feud. We typically review Raw and SmackDown in some order, but just because we're on it, Jey Uso did win the opportunity to win the Intercontinental title against with his upcoming match, and so, but it's interesting because they've kind of been having him half in that feud and then half helping the Terror Twins. And I'll just I'll just say it like I feel like it is is that I like the opportunity for the Terror Twins to get over. I don't think they give them one premium live event. Now it seems like Jey Uso is going to be joining. I wonder if you want Jey Uso to join, or if you at least like some time. It just feels like Rhea is getting passed from partner to partner, and that's kind of what got Dominic the heat, right? That's kind of the point behind it. And I don't know. For me, like, it kind of give her a little bit of an opportunity with this Terror Twins thing before we sexualize her again.
Yeah. If they're going to make the Judgment Day legitimate, I would say, like, if they're, because we talked about it with, I'm switching a little bit, but I'll get to the point. I promise with it. The Judgment Day, they've all been on losing streaks, right? They're just jobbers essentially. But if, there's 5 of them, 5, right? Yeah. 5 versus 2. The Terror Twins dominated, in a lot of portions of it. So if you're going to make the Judgment Day legitimate, they're going to win their singles matches. They're going to actually become a threat. Okay. 2 versus 5, you need somebody, that makes sense. But that's not booked that way. No, they're not booked that way. And then the thing, so last night, going into the segment a little bit, as you said, they're finally dominating the Terror Twins. All Jey Uso did was come out, literally just came out, and they ran.
Yeah.
It could have been a 5-on-1 because Damian and Rhea were hurt. They're injured in the ring, and Damian did his whole protecting Rhea thing. Literally, all Jey did was came out, they ran, and it's like, that's kind of where I'm like, he can come in and be this, super kick everybody 100 times. That's fun, but like, they're giving him this. He's like Superman. He's the deciding factor. It's like, well, it's
he hasn't quite earned that either.
No, he hasn't. And like we said, he's fun. He's got a great entrance. The crowd loves him.
Merch is off the charts.
All that. I still think his spear is really weak.
It's still the weakest spear in the game.
And he has to super kick you 100 times before it does anything.
Yeah.
And I know people have wanted Rhea and Jey, to do something, but I don't know the way they're doing it. I'm just there's something about it that's not super clicking for me. But I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to win the Intercontinental Championship. So this is going to be the fallback he's in. And I mean, I do like the Terror Twins as well as you did. I thought they were doing great. They have a great story. They're doing all that stuff.
They haven't paid off the Judgment Day breakup yet before bringing Jey into it. That's the only thing is I feel like they're hurrying along.
Yep. And it's hard. So the Terror Triplets, I don't know. Something's coming. It's got to be something there. This is where they're going with it, especially because I guess Rhea's really working off that injury. And now, Damian supposedly got injured. So yeah, Jay's their guy. So I would say, okay, but they're not executing it the way I think it needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has potential down the road. If they do go that route, I think if some way you can loop it back into, again, now I'm fantasy booking because this isn't going to happen because they don't book Dom well enough. But if you eventually had Dom in a feud, a very strong feud with Jey Uso, it would be perfect because Dom is like, especially for your television or live audience, Dom can draw the most heat in the building. All you have to do is say Rey Mysterio's name or Rhea Ripley's name, and the crowd's going to be booing him like crazy. And right now, Jey Uso is the exact opposite of that. The crowd loves to do the whole yeet motion and the whole thing. So he's just one of their most over live acts, and they haven't pushed him, in a direction. They push him to, like you're saying, this level of competing for U.S. or Intercontinental Championship and always losing it. And that's what makes it interesting. But, I think just the feud potential between those two might allow me to look the other way with them. Just kind of, Rhea's so good as she is. I just don't know if they always need a boyfriend or a love interest.
Yeah.
To be part of it. But maybe this is part of paying off the entire story is that, Rhea eventually needs another man to help her beat Dom and live. I don't know.
Well, at that point, just bring in her real life husband. I think boyfriend still.
I'm not sure.
Buddy Murphy. I mean, he was, part of it all.
Yeah.
He.
Well, that would really get this over. Yeah, that'd be really good.
Like you said, they are kind of sexualizing her. Might as well just bring in her real, spouse and just be like, hey, all right, because he can fit into it, and he's been a part of factions and things like that. So he's had his beef with the Mysterios and
bring back the Seth Rollins Messiah character with it.
No,
nobody ever says that.
Well, that's a little bit different, but they can go a different ways with this on how they're going with it. But yeah, we know this one-on-one with, Finn Balor and Damian, as you said, finally getting it. I think it's Hell in a Cell, right? You called it, right?
Yeah,
Like it's 100% Hell in a Cell. We know there's gonna be a lot of interference, but I'm excited to
so they're at Bad Blood, but I don't think they've announced Hell in a Cell particularly, did they?
They
or was
did.
it was McIntyre and Punk did?
I thought,
but they might have. I mean, it's at Bad Blood. It should end up in Hell in a Cell.
I want to say they also said it was a Hell in a Cell. Like you said, they were kind of going to bring that gimmick back.
Yeah.
We can look that up. We should have probably done a little bit better at that. But I want to say they're also going to be in a Hell in a Cell because that's when Finn was like, "But don't you forget, it's always Judgment Day rules."
Yeah.
And then they got beat up, and he's like, "You won't even make it there." And with that, so we'll see. Just a couple ideas, but both of them are supposedly hurt, so we'll see if they come out winning in Damien and Rhea. So
let's give me your percentage chance that Jey Uso beats Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title.
0.
You're not even going to entertain the idea.
No, as long as and like we've spoken on this, I hate when they have somebody halfway in 2 storylines because if that's the case,
they're already got a way to get out of it.
Yeah, so 0%.
Which I think is part of the problem. And they did this Intercontinental the winner gets a chance at the Intercontinental title. They did a lot of these matches the last couple of weeks to keep you interested. And I thought that's good. I think that it's always good when you put stakes on a match rather than, hey, these two are just fighting.
Yeah.
But the problem with it all along has been, I don't think, you'd watch these matches of guys trying to get into the fatal 4-way to win the Intercontinental title opportunity. And you're just thinking none of these guys should beat Braun. But because Braun Breaker has done really good with his title. I think the crowd is starting to bark behind him a little bit more. He's got a lot of swagger, and he's getting more of it with the belt, which makes sense. So, it is an interesting deal here where they do have Jey Uso, who's so over in merch sales and all that stuff. Again, in the situation, I guess my point for the whole thing is that I felt like the fact that Jey Uso was clearly lined up to be the winner, and also has been in this opportunity where they call him main event. He main events these things, comes up short every time. It's just taking a little bit away from that as well. There's just never a posable threat to Braun Breaker, at least if they're going to do Braun Breaker's first title reign any justice.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds you a little bit of like the LA Knight, right? Like somebody they have pushed just naturally kind of, heat hot, and they kept second place, just there. Yeah. And people would say, oh, if he wins, that's great. But if he loses, that wasn't really a great challenge, So I agree with you on that. They're kind of missing the mark with it on there. I mean, for Braun Breaker right now, he's kind of just in a weird spot, isn't he? Like the people they're trying to give to him. I mean, Jay, I guess, I don't know. I'm not that behind Jay, and it's just hard. But I'll tell you what, it's better than Braun Strowman. It's better than Pete Dunne. I thought Pete Dunne, great wrestler. That's not
trying to get over the acknowledging the Butch era was not probably the best career move.
No,
I don't know if they'll let you do that.
It's just weird, and so really, I guess the only legitimate contender. I mean, Braun Strowman would have been fine. That's a 7-footer, like 380 pounds. Like that's huge. That would have been fun, but the way they built him up, it wasn't working. So I guess Jay's got to be the guy, but yeah, it's not going to happen. And, and then we're going to be talking about, unfortunately, Braun Breaker. We're like, what's next? Who's next? They have, Ila Dragic, Dragunov. Dragunov. I mean, he's great in the ring, but he too new,
he's been floating around without a storyline, but like a third party of everybody's storyline. For quite some time.
And he's always the guy that's so close,
Right. He put on a good match.
Yeah, puts on a great
quality
match.
Of the match.
He just isn't built up, yet. And I think that hurts. They need to bring in somebody for Braun Breaker to actually do something. Because when was the last time we even saw Braun Breaker wrestle? He's always just now a background. He's got the title, and they're just holding him back, and we'll see. But yeah, with that, I don't know. I mean,
well, like we said last week, to get into this match, each one of these guys had to win to get into the Fatal 4-Way #1 Contenders match to win a match, and Dominic Mysterio could have been in this match, could have been in this main event. And it just, I think, would have helped, what's going to happen with the Judgment Day. You have that lingering over the match. It would have just, I would have been a lot more interested in it. The fact that they had Braun Strowman in there, was good, and I think like he can be a opposable threat to anybody. But since they've brought him back, he also hasn't had really a storyline to go with. Now I think they're doing justice with him with Bronson Reed. My guy, I love Bronson Reed because he won the Andre this last year, and then I want to say at one time that the Andre helped push somebody at some point. So Bronson Reed doing the tsunami on Braun Strowman, that was definitely the spot of the main event match. And I think that's been good. Bronson Reed, they kind of have had hanging around WWE as a mid-carder, never quite winning the matches either. And so his first kind of big singles push here, they had him take out Seth Rollins, take out The Miz, and you're kind of thinking the whole time, all right, you need somebody his size. Yeah. Now you give him Braun Strowman, who we just talked about, not really having anything to do. I think that's excellent for the future of those two. I mean, I think as we move forward to Raw being in 2 hours, that feud still makes it.
Yeah, you think that makes it? So they, this is just me being funny, but they had a chance to do Braun versus Bronson. I mean,
they probably will.
I mean,
you don't say that too loud; they'll do it.
Yeah, talk about a tongue teaser there and a
test Joe Testator out of the breaks.
Braun versus Bronson. I can just see that, but yeah, Bronson Reed. I wasn't high on him, but watching him recently, that tsunami, all that's great. Yeah, that you got to keep this storyline. And, for everything, like we said with Braun Strowman, he's a former WWE champion. I mean, he is, he's been, the highest and
the monster among men.
When they want to build him, he can do it. They need to let him be, let him work, put him in, like you said, an actual storyline, which they're starting to, and, maybe bring something back to him. I don't know.
His career will never quite get to the point it needs to be until Nicholas makes a surprise return and helps them win the tag team championship again.
My gosh. When they do that, that's, I know you want to make people baby faces and things like that, but when you make a monster, somebody like that into a baby face like that, and great story, great time. I'm not going to bash it. That was great. We know why, all that stuff.
They've done some bad things with Braun Strowman in the past. I think of that. I think of when they brought him back to feud in WrestleMania with Shane McMahon, and Shane McMahon was supposed to be the bad guy, but everybody kind of was cheering for Shane McMahon. Yeah. And then I think of when they absolutely buried Kevin Owens, who they had, entered WWE beating John Cena, and so they just had him at this high level, and then they had him do this character act or the scared act of being of the monster among men, and ended up in a stall, a toilet stall or whatever, getting tipped over. I mean, it just got so bad to Kevin Owens, who look what they've done with them since then. Like they've understood it, but that was just bad. So sometimes them not trying with Braun Strowman actually is better than trying.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of things. And like we said, they had the perfect opportunity of putting him in with the Uncle Howdy. I mean, he was an original member of the Wyatt Six.
Really would put that group over from the mid card, which they're debuting into, like a legitimate threat.
Yeah, because we talk about it. I mean, Nikki, she's a women's champ, but we're not going to acknowledge that because she was a superhero during her championship time, so it doesn't count. But Braun Strowman, former champion, monster among men. He's done. Did he win the Andre the Giant? I think he won it.
Braun Strowman, he might have won it.
I think he won it 1 year. Come on, man, you should know that.
I should know my history.
That's your tournament. Yeah. No, just joking all aside.
Jey Uso did once.
Hey, someone's getting
Cesaro.
Pushed
yeah.
They tried.
I was so excited when Cesaro won. I was a big Cesaro fan when he won the Andre, and then they made him a Paul Heyman man for one night, and I was just losing. I was just, yes, this is everything. This is my fantasy book, and then they're like, never mind. Let's just have him mess around with Sheamus for a while and start the bar.
Oh man, that's funny. But they keep teasing you with that. But with Braun Strowman, man, they had the perfect opportunity, and the Wyatt Six, they kicked off Raw there. So that was another weird thing, going on there. But man, just imagine if they had a Braun Strowman, somebody that was that big, 7-footer. I know Eric Rowan is big too, but I keep saying it, a former champ, legitimacy. But we talk about Bo. I mean, believe, that I'm never going to get that out of my mind. And that's always going to haunt him. And you can't take him as serious as being the leader of this thing when all I want to ever think of, believe in yourself, and things like that.
Well, and he's just not his brother, and he's trying to kind of do his brother's act.
Yeah.
the Wyatt Six, and we can talk about that too when we return. We got to take a quick break, but I did think that they did a really good presentation with that debut, that match against American Made to open up, the season premiere this week. But it does feel like it's always going to not quite reach the level of what it could have been, which is, like you said, have Strowman and Eric Rowan and Alexa Bliss and people that have had actual ties, and throw them in with Bo, and then have them elevate Bo. That would have been just fantastic. And but they're trying to go a different route, and here we are. But I think the Wyatt Six are interesting. It's hard to see them getting into a main event level where this would have been, okay. This kind of back to the Fiend days where he had several premium live events that he would main event.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but Wyatt Six is like Bray Wyatt's. With them, it was varsity. Right now, we got the JV version, and that's not what you want. What you want to see. I didn't even think about Alexa Bliss. She's been gone for forever. She would have been. Everybody thought she was coming back, and Nikki Cross doing a good job. With that. But you're right. They literally had members they could have brought in and just, like you said, elevated him. And I thought that'd have been the best thing to do, because he's trying really hard, but it's not sticking. He's trying to be his brother, and he's not. And it makes you feel bad because, they're doing it in his memory and all that stuff. But even his laugh, you can't, it's tough, but they're trying. And, I do think this was kind of a fun match, some of the things they did with it, but we can get into that a little bit here when we go over the segment.
Yeah. We got plenty more to Raw to talk about. We'll also talk about SmackDown by the end of the show, but we went this whole time without even saying anything about Bret Hart's return. So we got a lot to talk about there. Finn Balor also kind of standing on his own here. A little bit of ring general action with Bret Hart even. So we got plenty to talk about here. More with Raw coming up next here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com. Follow the Huskers to the City of Angels when Nebraska plays at USC in November. Book your official Nebraska alumni travel package at huskerfantravel.com. Choose from 2 or 3 night options that include a downtown LA hotel, exclusive welcome event, game day transportation, and the official Husker Huddle pregame party. Add on game tickets for an optional upgrade. Transportation to and from LA not included. Join the official Nebraska alumni trip to see the Huskers play at USC. Spots are limited, so book your trip now at huskerfantravel.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and Truck Month is back. We have absolutely gigantic savings right now at Koppel. They are offering $12,500 off on select new pickups. That is not a mistake. You heard right. $12,500 off list price right now on select new pickups. Those discounted units, though, will not last long. These are all manager specials. You have to come in now, so hurry in down 144th Street or shop online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. Stock number G3569093 must trade.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Rain, snow, or shine, John Henry's is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call
John Henry's. 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
And electrical.
For 15 years, Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping has been helping Lincoln become healthier, happier, and more fit through our proven combination of kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching. And to celebrate 15 years of success, we're offering you 50% off our next 10-week challenge beginning September 14th. That's 10 weeks of fun group fitness classes and individualized coaching for half off. And at the end of the 10 weeks, someone's walking away with $1,000 for the best transformation. Come check it out. What do you have to lose? Click on the banner at theticketfm.com to learn more. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill or 70th and Vine. And check us out online at fxblincoln.com.
It's the greatest time of the year again. Kickoff is here and football is officially back. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog, and this year you can too. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code EARLY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code EARLY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Glad to be back with you here on a Tuesday evening. This is Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I am Jake Bachman. He is Augie Pena, and we are breaking down the latest week in WWE wrestling. If you have wrestling friends out there, tell them about us, I should say, every weekend, weeknight Tuesday, every week, I should say, from this time, 10 to 11 on 93.7 The Ticket. You can find us on any one of our streaming platforms as well. And yeah, we have fun. We talk about weekly wrestling, and we talked about half of Raw, I would say, through the first segment. So let's go ahead and jump into Raw. We talked a little bit about the Wyatt Six against American Made, but didn't jump into the details here. This was the debut of Nikki Cross, and I thought they did a good job just with the story, the video package. WWE is one of what makes their company so good is they're just so good at those video packages. And this one went all the way back to the Wyatt Six's actual debut when they run amok in the locker room, and everybody was wondering what's happening next in wrestling. And then I feel like from there, that was kind of the height of the Wyatt Six, and it never quite paid off. But they're trying to now, and I thought their presentation was pretty good. Of course, they were in Calgary, in Canada. American Made is then the heel because they are Americans, and Chad Gable bringing out an American flag. So, you kind of have that dynamic added to it. Can always be a little bit of fun. But really, to me, again, it was, and Dexter Lumis and Joey Gacy and Eric Rowan, we're all there unmasked, which I think is also what you have to do here is acknowledge them, by name. You're not calling them, the crow or the pig or whatever names you have for them. They're actual wrestlers. And Nikki Cross has been held out of in-ring action so far. Remember, she was delivering the VHS tape. She just kind of comes out of the smoke. And so I think that in a weird way, I appreciated Nikki Cross's career more post this character's debut. Just because I wanted to see how it was going to work. How's that going to look in the ring? And they just did a really good job of keeping the action going. Remember, this was commercial free, so they had to keep the action going. And so altogether, worked out well. Ultimately, the Wyatt Six get the win after a very entertaining match to include Eric Rowan using a barricade against, I think, the entirety of American Made. And ultimately, again, getting the win with an interruption from Bo Dallas, from Uncle Howdy, the leader. So again, kind of going backwards in your wrestling math there, because the good guys in this case, which are ultimately the scary horror people, which you think would be bad guys, against the Americans, who we generally think are good guys. Well, the horror people are the good guys, and they use an extra guy to outflank the bad guys. So it was just, there's a lot of different ways of typical. They brought in a lot of traditional wrestling themes into it with doing it a little bit of a different way. So altogether, I thought I was just very entertained.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. We've been a little bit critical of how they've been using the Wyatt Six and Bo Dallas and whatnot, but yeah, I think American Made Chad Gable. I think he's able to really insert himself a lot into this as well. Kind of make. We agree, great wrestler. He's great. His character is great. American Made is starting to grow into it, and then like you said, the Wyatt Six, they're going from being, the figures, to their actual people and things like that. And, the more you watch, they can actually wrestle, they can put on some good matches. And I think that's the most important part of it. Cause we're there for the storylines and, the promos and things, but you got to be able to put up when it's time. And I thought on this one they did, and didn't, Ivy Neal, she used a fire extinguisher on one of them.
Yeah.
I thought I thought that was a really fun time. And like you said, I enjoy the clean matches as well, but when it can be chaotic like this at times, use some fun things, I enjoy it. And I think tonight, it was a great way to kick off Raw with that.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good start again in Calgary, and they had been, by the way, teasing all night that they're going to have the Bret Hart return, so that was kind of something to look forward to in Calgary. Also, they started off the show again by kind of highlighting Joe Tessitore, who, as we continue to mention, is just a big get for wrestling in general. As a college football fan, if you told me I could get any name in that would be one of the first names I would say yes. Like it's just so interesting because Pat McAfee is very over with the audience, but he's kind of the color commentator, right? And Joe Tessitore is more of your play-by-play guy. So like I think historically we're going to look back at this and Pat McAfee is going to be kind of the standout guy. But to me as a broadcaster, I love the fact that they're bringing in Joe Tess. It also kind of helps with the crossover to where ESPN will occasionally cover some WrestleMania matches. And so if you have Joe Tessitore, that'll help it out. But, it really, when I think of Joe Tessitore, I think of like my top broadcasters that I love listening. Like, again, college football being my favorite sport. Expanded to the NBA, like a Kevin Harlan, I think would be kind of fun. But, I think of my all-time favorites of, the Brett Musburgers and just so many greats. And Joe Tessitore is one of them. So to get him in wrestling has just been a very fun time for me. And I think that you can tell he's still learning some of the characters, learning some of the movesets, but wrestling fans really are enjoying him already from what I see online. Is that, because he's just got that way for calling the moment. That's what makes him so good in college football. And, in some of the other sports he does, that when he does kind of pick up the other stuff, man, he's going to be good.
Yeah, and he's got that voice that it just carries. It feels like you're watching a college football game, but it's wrestling, and I think that's it tricked my brain a little bit. I think last week was his first week, and I was like, oh well, yeah, Joe Tessitore's on here, so it's a lot of fun. And he's with Wade Barrett, right?
Right.
I think they're doing a great job. Wade's kind of giving that real WWE, and then Joe's giving the, like you said, the play-by-play and all that, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job. And I hope, they can keep him around for a while, kind of go from there. And I agree with everything you said. I'm excited for it. I hope they keep him going, and he's going to get more into it. And like you said, people are loving it right now. So just imagine when he finally gets comfortable, with calling the play-by-play of wrestling. I mean, he's going to kill it.
By the way, my top play-by-play guy of all time, Pat Summerall. His games with John Madden were incredible. In wrestling, very underrated one, Mauro Ranallo. I don't know if you remember Mauro Ranallo, but it was a couple years ago. He was in and out of wrestling, and he does UFC, but he kind of reminds me, or Tess kind of sounds like him. So it'll be interesting to see what move forward there. Again, at that time, they did announce that Raw will move to 2 hours starting October 7th through the company's exit with USA Network. Then they had the WWE Tag Team Championship again, somehow between Belair and Cargill and Holy Union. I think this is the third time, maybe in a roundabout way, and Holy Union won it without pinning Belair and Cargill in a triple threat, I think, at one point. But as would be expected, Bell and Cargill get the win. We talked about, this kind of whole feud last week, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. But again, kind of what you would expect and probably what should be done. unless they're really trying to push Unholy Union. But that would have left Beller and Cargill just kind of out there, putting over the new guys, which is fine. That can happen. Again, you just kind of get to this problem. Okay, well then what's next for Beller and Cargill without a credible threat in the women's tag division?
Yeah, they did the right thing. You're right. We don't need to do all that much. Beller and Cargill physically also should just be the two, but Unholy Union, they have their fans, and they are good in the ring. But like you said, I mean, you got to give Beller and Cargill, keep them with the credibility of these titles to give them that, because I mean, you can't just be doing the hot potato,
Yeah.
And then you don't like to see, which they're doing a lot here, is that every week the tag team championships are changing. You got to have somebody be a champ for a while to keep it hot. Yeah. So I agree. They did the right thing here.
Yeah, and we'll see too. Unholy Union, it's going to be interesting because they're obviously just given the magic push. Anybody would love to just kind of jump in the WWE, win a title pretty quickly. The very important thing, as I said last week, I feel like they did that before they got their gimmick over.
Yeah.
So the next step is going to be, okay, if they're not in a tag, in the championship picture, why do we care about them? And so this next feud, whatever it may be, and we'll see what happens next for an Unholy Union, is going to be very important for them. We had Bret Hart's return again to Calgary. It's kind of funny because Bret Hart is one of the more real. I mean, he'll tell you how he thinks, and there's no other way around it in any interview process in all time. Of course, he's connected to different eras of WWE, to include getting screwed over in the Montreal screw job. But it's so, there's just a lot with his return. I think Wade Barrett had to point out where the hard cam was when he was in the ring. So it was interesting because I wasn't expecting Bret to put on too much of an act, because he just doesn't necessarily do that. But I thought they did a good job of bringing a legend back and helping it push over a new star, because ultimately they had their current champion, the ring inner come into the ring and really say one of the best lines in wrestling that we've seen in a long time, which was telling the Hitman that he's his favorite wrestler, but his actual favorite wrestler, he's actually second place, because the actual favorite wrestler is Bill Goldberg, who Bret Hart and Bill Goldberg have like real life heat. They've, Bret Hart's never really let it go that Bill Goldberg, his career ended up ending a little bit prematurely because of a match with Bill Goldberg. And Bret Hart really, and like genuinely, in all the interviews we've seen him, hasn't really forgiven Bill Goldberg for that. So, I was expecting him to say Shawn Michaels to get back to the Montreal screw job, and then, because you'd really be playing into the Calgary thing. But when he said Goldberg, I was like, oh my goodness, he really just hit a low blow there. So very entertaining. Ultimately, Sami Zayn, who they're, trying to make a credible threat to Gunther, stands up for the beloved Bret Hart. And so altogether, again, just a really good segment, I think, of bringing in an older star that shouldn't do any spots, but finding a way to get a rub off of him.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, thank goodness they didn't do any spots, because the last couple times Bret Hart has tried to wrestle or something, he's looking like an almost 70-year-old now. Yeah. But he's great still, because like you said, he's somebody, you remember from the 90s, the 2000s, the screw jobs, the Hart Dynasty, kind of all those, being in a bunch of those storylines. So I thought this was great, get the crowd in it, and then just get, all the heat for Gunther. They're doing a phenomenal job with him, I think, right now. He's doing a phenomenal job of just delivering these lines. Against Randy, he said some things. He's now he keeps denying Sami Zayn a chance, for a title match. Keeps saying no, things like that. The Bill Goldberg, I was with you there. I was watching it. I was expecting him to say something Shawn Michaels, kind of like you said. Yeah. And then I kind of got a little scared, because I was like, wait a minute. Why are they saying Bill? I was like, don't say his name 3 times. You'll get him to come and he's going to take your title away. Because I don't know if you heard, Goldberg has mentioned, he'd come back. He's always kind of there on the sidelines waiting. So,
big enough paycheck should bring Bill Goldberg back at some point.
My God, and especially if it's somewhere in Saudi, they love Bill and they'll bury anybody for that. So, but no, yeah, I agree. I thought it was a great segment. It's good to see Bret. I know he's somebody they kind of bring around a lot, but it's like once a year, so with that, it's not like a Hulk Hogan situation, where it's every time it's Bret. It's this time it's, they do give a year, 2 years, mainly in Canada, or like the Hall of Fame thing. So I'm okay with his returns. They're nice. And you do think they owe him, if you believe the story of the Montreal screw job, he kind of got worked on his own doing, but they kind of owe him for life there, some other things. So, but yeah, great segment. I thought it was fun, and it's furthering the, whatever you can do to help Sami Zayn be a credible threat again. Because we talked about it. He's great. He does his own thing. I'm just not all for it anymore. And with Gunther, there's no way he's going to beat him twice.
Well, I think some people, again, I think that he is better than maybe you or I would give him credit for in this spot, because I think at least it gives Gunther something to do. The problem is for again, a lot of different wrestling fans, including the both of us, we'd never wanted Sami to beat Gunther to begin with. So this kind of whole thing around is like, I don't even know, if they did it again, be like really confused. And they're just not. There's no position where it makes sense. It kind of, you kind of get stuck in that in most cases where you have a championship that's won, and okay, so what's this title reign going to look like? And you got to start somewhere before you get a few feuds in and kind of build your supremacy. So this is that starter feud for him, and hopefully Sami Zayn doesn't win it. Also on WWE Raw last night, you kind of had LWO poking their nose around and wanting to take on the Judgment Day. So we had a few matches there. Dragon Lee and Dominic Mysterio. Dom does get a win, so give WWE a little bit of credit there. But it was thanks to Liv. So again, good storytelling in doing so. They also had Rey Mysterio against Finn Balor later in the night. Nothing really, just to get Finn Balor a little bit more heat. His promo, I think, against Damian Priest earlier in the night. He did call out Damian Priest, as we kind of talked about. I skipped over it because we talked about it earlier, is that, they're going to have a spot at Bad Blood here coming up with him and Damian Priest. I thought they undersold him a little bit. Just sometimes the wording matters. When Finn Balor says nobody turns me into a sidekick, he should have said nobody tries to turn me into, right? So you're not like saying, actually putting it over that you were the sidekick. So, I just thought they missed a little bit there. But anytime you want to get heat on anybody, have him beat up Rey Mysterio because he's a little guy everybody cheers for. So they did a good job there, and a little bit of post-match beat down doesn't hurt either in getting that heat. And then we also mentioned that Uso did defeat Pete Dunne, Strowman, and Dragunov to earn that Intercontinental Championship opportunity. The only other match I think that we didn't mention was Lyra Valkyria and Zelina Vega with a surprise return from Natalya. A surprise anybody could see coming from a mile away, to take on Pure Fusion Collective. And they ultimately pay homage to Bret Hart with his finisher in the middle of the ring. All three of them on over Pure Fusion Collective. As cheesy as it gets in wrestling, but doesn't make it bad wrestling. That was I thought that was good enough for the Natty spot. Natty is just in this weird. She's pegged into this hole that I don't think any other person's necessarily going to have this gimmick of the long term. She's done just about everything. They never quite push her near the as the ultimate champion. It's up to you whether you agree that she, does she get a Dolph Ziggler, push for sticking around long enough? That's up to you. But they always milk the Canada and the Bret Hart stuff with her, and so that's what she's there for year after year.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I forgot she was on the roster, because the last time we saw her, we were complaining that she walked in and got a chance against Rhea.
Yeah.
I think it was Rhea's first championship match, or one of her first ones after getting it. And so I agree, she'll be there forever. She's a legacy, as they call it. But the sharpshooters was were pretty nice to see all of them. And we talked about it. Pure Fusion Collective, they've got a month, and then they're going to be.
Shoot your shot, Augie. Shoot your shot.
Yeah, they're already there. They're already there. So they're it's there. But bringing Natalya in to help Lyra Valkyria and Zelina Vega, I mean, that's not bad. Just like I said, Pure Fusion Collective. I don't get when they like put a group together just to have them be jobbers, and then that's it. So that's essentially what's happening here. So yeah, fun little segment. But I thought Raw was decent. It had some good spots on it, and then we'll see what happens on this next Monday. Now that both shows are on the USA Network.
Yeah. If you don't have the USA Network and you're a wrestling fan, you sure are missing out. All right, let's take another quick break. We will talk about SmackDown from last week. The Bloodline versus DIY in the Street Profits main event of that one. Maybe that's underselling a little bit, but more of the story is the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa Part 2. We've talked a little bit about that Giovanni Vinci debut as well. And Chelsea Green gets a win. I'll always be happy about that. We'll talk about that coming up next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Sea-Doo dealership. Score up to $300 off or a free 2-year warranty on 2024 Sea-Doo Sparks and $500 off or a free 2-year warranty on all other brand new 2024 Sea-Doos. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of September. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with a large selection of motorcycles and watercraft in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Hurry in, the clock is running down.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That break was just about as quick as the Giovanni Vinci match, but a little bit longer. We will get into our SmackDown review here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket, going all the way back to last Friday. And since football season started, last Friday seems like 3 weeks ago, probably now. So we'll refresh your memory a little bit if you feel kind of the same way. SmackDown opened up with American Nightmare. First of all, giving credit to Kevin Owens for battling in his latest feud. And welcome Michael Cole back to SmackDown. So that, good start there. But the Bloodline ultimately makes their way to the ring. Solo Sikoa has everybody wait at ringside. Cody calls out Jacob Fatu and wants to fight him. We talked a little bit about earlier in the show. Not a good idea to propose the opportunity at a better match than the match that you're going to give. Yeah. And so by doing so, the crowd was hoping for something along those lines. Instead, Solo Sikoa challenged Cody Rhodes and made it official that he was going to take him on next week for the debut of season premiere on USA Network. Of course, this was the last SmackDown on Fox. Which remember started with a pretty quick match as we're talking about it with Brock Lesnar ending Kofi Mania in about 30 seconds. But in any case, the thing that went viral and probably the biggest thing to come out of SmackDown was the absolute no sell by the crowd, not a care in the world when Solo Sikoa said he's going to take on Cody Rhodes. It's been really sloppy how they've done this with Solo in my mind, as somebody that at one point would have loved this push for Solo. But we mentioned it over and over again. They just had him take so many pins where he was at one time maybe got beaten twice, just beat John Cena. And then he was taking so many pins that it just didn't make a whole lot of sense for this whole push that they've done with him since WrestleMania. But here we are. And now people don't care even about a SummerSlam rematch. This was the title match at SummerSlam. And there's a rematch on television and not, crickets from the crowd. It was, again, I've been soft sometimes, dancing around because I know people love the Bloodline storyline, but this is bad. This is not good. This is not the reaction you want for Solo Sikoa, who had so much potential that, it feels like if done well, he would be a staple in wrestling for the next couple decades. But instead, I don't know if we'll see him here in 3 or 4 years when, he might be one of those, hey, Tuesday, WWE made some releases type of thing. And it's not there now. I mean, but that's what my concern now is. It's just they've handled this poorly. And I think Solo is going to get to the brunt of that in totality.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It really backfired on them because, Solo's supposed to be the main guy and it's Jacob. We've talked about that. And when Cody was saying it, I 100% knew, I think everybody knew he was not talking to Solo, saying he deserves it, this and that. On that. So no, I agree. It's bad. It was, they could have put in some, some cheers or something, to get at least the TV viewers believing it. Cause that's what they do. They put some cheers in there sometimes or something.
It's a production.
And, yeah. And man, nothing at all. It was cringe, is the words I say to watch it. Without Roman being a part of this blood feud, it's rough. They're trying to still keep it relevant, main event worthy, the main storyline on SmackDown, you would say, even opposed to, Cody Rhodes kind of having him in it too, but not. And, they just never, like you said, they didn't build up Solo well enough, when Roman and The Rock were doing it, they had him take the pin. I remember the night before WrestleMania, it's like, no, you won't fight them. You'll fight me, and got booed. Nobody wanted to see that.
Yeah.
And it's like right then and there, you were like, he had hope. It died there, I thought. And then, just after everything, they tried to push him back, and they just did it, without a real story, just, oh yeah, he's back to being the enforcer. We're going to forget the fact that he lost 12 matches in a row. And it just never worked. And then they gave him, besides Jacob Fatu, the other two henchmen aren't very credible either. They're trying, they gave him the tag titles, and it's very disappointing. I will give it hope for a cage match, on the premiere SmackDown on the USA Network, but I'm going to say it's because I feel like we might see Roman come back to stop, Solo, and for Solo's sake, that shouldn't be it. It shouldn't be, we need Roman to be back to carry that. And for Cody too, kind of.
Not a great reflection on Cody either.
No, it's not, because it's showing, he's not where everybody was hoping he was when he
can't just roll anybody in the ring and have a great feud with Cody.
You kind of like with Roman, but I kind of sat back and looked at it a little bit. We kind of complained a lot about it with Roman, right? When he was dominating everybody, like, he can't do that. Then turns back, he had like the greatest 3-year storyline of all time. So got to be patient. We're a little harsh on it, but with Solo, I agree. Guy just, they need to give him wins, but he's feuding against the WWE champion. You're not going to get wins in that feud, and that's hard. They needed to do it another way.
He's just past the point where you can really help him. They did have him pin Cody, and that brought down the whole feud in Cody too. So like, and that was in a tag team match. So, and you compare that to where they have Jey Uso, to what they've done in my mind with Sammy, where I think they threw him into that Intercontinental title to say that, hey, we did something with Sammy. Like, they just at one time had a lot of characters with Sammy and Jay, and that this was just so organic and great, and this whole new bloodline just doesn't have that juice. It just doesn't. It's just not natural. So we'll see what happens with it. They ended up having them in DIY and the Street Profits, join Cody Rhodes, which that's just more smiley face good guys. We already kind of complained about that through the last years, but certainly Randy Orton and KO recently. I even less want to see DIY and the Street Profits back, Cody, but here we are. And so that was the main event. And again, Sikoa did pin Ford. He stood strong at the end. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. It just feels like they just didn't book it well enough for me to ever really get him over. Other matches we got to go over quickly. Bayley and Tiffany Stratton went at it. The role model hit Nia Jax, who was out ringside with a suicide dive, and then hit the Rose Plant for the win on Tiffany Stratton. Any quick thoughts there?
I mean, Tiffany Stratton's a star, and she's kind of overshadowing Nia Jax in this feud. And, I don't like her getting the loss, but, they got to keep Bayley going strong to give them somebody, other than just the two of them. Looks like a triple threat may be coming through.
Other things to note there, Chelsea Green got a win. I'm always pro. This is a pro Chelsea Green show. So we're excited to see Chelsea Green get a win against Mia Yim. Yeah, it took a little distraction, but that's fine. That works for her. Yeah, it works for her, at least to get a win. And then a couple other matches. Giovanni Da Vinci's debut, really embarrassing, and really almost feels like a waste of time. Because they spent a few promos the last couple of weeks to getting him ready to debut, and then he can't take his shirt off, and he just get pinned right away by Apollo Crews, who doesn't really have anything going for him. So I don't know what they're doing there, but I suppose we'll tune in next week and see. The only other match I thought was very entertaining, Kevin Owens against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory in a triple threat, right? You had a tag teams group against Kevin Owens. I believe Owens did end up winning that and then getting a post-match beatdown from the two. So they continue to tell the story of can Waller and Theory trust each other. I think it's entertaining enough between the three of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. It was an okay SmackDown. They're trying to build on the storylines, and like I said, I'm excited to see what they got for this Friday on the USA Network.
Yeah, we'll tell you all about it next week on Nuclear Heat. Thanks again for joining us. Tell your friends, tell your wrestling friends about us here every Tuesday night from 10 to 11 on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Thanks again.
In today's digital landscape, the security of your business is non-negotiable. That's why you need better cybersecurity solutions. At Hamilton, we make it our business to protect your network, data, and digital assets with the latest in cybersecurity technology. Our dedicated team of experts has the technology in place to protect what matters most to you and your business. Stay ahead of cyber threats with better cybersecurity protection. Hire Hamilton at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Riddle's Jewelry is excited to be celebrating 65 years. 65 years of so many incredible memories celebrating with each of your special moments. In celebration of the 65th Riddle's Jewelry anniversary, we will be offering up to 40% off all engagement rings and all diamond fashion jewelry. The excitement doesn't stop there. Riddle's Jewelry is also offering 18 months, 0% interest and $0 down financing on all qualifying purchases. Riddle's Jewelry has always been known for incredible customer service, one of the largest selections of engagement rings, and don't forget about the on-site jeweler. Come celebrate with us at Riddle's Jewelry, your one-stop diamond shop with exclusive Levian jewelry, Pandora Charm jewelry, and more. All at Riddle's inside Gateway Mall.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com